Football fans just enjoyed some of the most exciting playoff games of all time. But while those teams are trying to achieve NFL glory, others have already started rebuilding. Hello and welcome to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Kelly Warner here with Tim Rogers and Matt McLaughlin. Once the regular season ended, there were a handful of head coaching vacancies, and some have already been filled. Tim, I'll start with you. Who is your favorite signing so far?
My favorite signing might be like one of my favorite signings of all time, and that's Brian Daboll going to be that new head coach of the New York Giants. I think we all know that the New York Giants offense has not been great as of recently. They were 31st this year, while the Bills offense was number 5. And I'm shocked Brian Daboll, it took him this long to become head coach anywhere. I mean, we've seen how he's transitioned that Bills offense, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was questioned as a project coming out of the draft. But here, he improves into, I would personally say, top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now. So maybe they could do that with Danny Dimes. Obviously, Daniel Jones has a lot to improve on, a little bit more than I would say Josh Allen did coming out of the draft. But this is, I truly think this is a culture change for the New York Giants, which I know a thing or two about. And I think it's something that the Giants need to do for years to come, is to change the culture and build around somebody that wants to win and wants to improve this offense.
Comparing Josh Allen and Daniel Jones is, as Stephen A. Smith would say, blasphemous. But that's a whole different discussion for another day. I really enjoy the Nathaniel Hackett signing to the Denver Broncos because the Broncos definitely need a new voice in the locker room. Vic Fangio had a good job of keeping that team above water, but he had the #1 offense in 2020 with the Packers. Obviously, there's speculation that Aaron Rodgers is going to jump ship to Denver to join Hackett. I don't see that happening, but Hackett really has a solid foundation to work with. Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, who people are forgetting is coming off of injury. Solid wide receiver cores. They have to address running back. Melvin Gordon's scheduled to become a free agent this offseason. So if they can get a running back to really solidify a rookie quarterback, most likely now that Denver is a #9 overall pick, if they can get a quarterback who's young and can develop similar to Josh Allen in Buffalo, because it's going to be a project. Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral, not necessarily the bona fide picks that we've seen in the past. So if they can get a solid group of veterans around Hackett's young quarterback, Denver's going to be a threat to watch in the years to come.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Broncos have more to work with, and I think I would definitely say the Giants are probably the absolute worst team in the league and have the most work to do. But if anyone can do it, I trust Brian Daboll because he helped my guy Josh Allen, so I believe in it.
And it's important to note, one of Buffalo's weaknesses was running the ball, and the Giants need Saquon Barkley to get going because they don't know if they're going to sign him to a max extension at some point. He's been injured, hasn't really gotten going because the offensive line is just abhorrent. You could pull guys off the tailgate lots, and that would be better than that offensive line. So if the Giants can figure what they have in Saquon, that's at least a stepping stone. And then who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants draft another quarterback soon. I'm sorry, Giants fans, but well, not really.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
Definitely interested to see what they do there. But now I want to know, what's a signing that's had you guys scratching your heads?
Well, for me, it's the Windy City. Matt Eberflus joining the Chicago Bears because Justin Fields is the spotlight in Chicago. So they got to figure out how are they going to maximize his potential. I really thought going offensive coordinator heritage would have worked out much better for Chicago. And the last time we saw Matt Eberflus' defense was giving up 26 points to who else? The Jacksonville Jaguars. Clown time. They're wearing clown masks all around the stadium to protest their owner, and the Colts get knocked out of the playoffs. Not a good look, but I'm willing to give Eberflus a chance. It just didn't seem right. If you're going to go defensive coordinator, I would at least go Brian Flores because he just seems like a guy that's willing to light a fire in the locker room. And the Bears have a lot of potential roster turmoil coming up in the offseason with guys like Andy Dalton, Allen Robinson, Akeem Hicks. They got some questions to answer on both sides of the ball. And so right now I think Eberflus is just starting behind the 8 ball already in Chicago, and he's already got to figure out ways to at least maximize his field's potential.
Yeah, I never thought that the defense was a problem for Chicago. I don't think there was a question about that. I think if you want to build around Justin Fields, you should have gotten him an offensive mind. But the one that really just blows my mind to me is Josh McDaniels. As you can see on the graphic here, he's making that face, and that's the same face I'm making right now to this signing. What are we doing here? I mean, Versace, with everything that was going on, he was the interim Raiders head coach. With everything that happened with Gruden and everything that happened with Ruggs, he went 7-5 and took them to the playoffs. But you don't want to keep him. Instead, you go for a guy whose head coaching record is 11-17
Not
on
good
a
look.
solid Denver Broncos team, and you started off 6-0. You should probably make the playoffs if you start 6-0, right? Guess what? He did not. So when I saw this, I just couldn't believe it, and I can't believe he's getting another shot to be a head coach again.
I don't believe in Josh McDaniels. I also found this shocking. And I saw that Versace was being interviewed for other head coaching jobs, which if he gets hired somewhere else, that just makes the Raiders' choice even dumber. And I totally agree with the Bears one, too. I get defense, Bears, that's their whole thing. But Justin Fields needs some help. He can grow if they give him the right guy. I don't think that Eberflus is the right guy.
The defense is getting up there in age. Khalil Mack is not getting any younger. He's approaching his mid-30s. And so the Bears are in this weird purgatory of teams where do they go for mediocrity? They're certainly not a playoff team in the NFC North. I don't see that. The NFC North just looks like turmoil. Somehow this upcoming season, the Detroit Lions have the most hope out of any team. Depending on the Rodgers situation, the Vikings have to answer questions with Kirk Cousins. We'll get to the Vikings.
Hey, the Jets had Rookie of the Week a few weeks out of the year, so maybe them.
That's right.
It's the first award they've gotten in years.
That's me.
I have to, that's why I had to bring it up.
Of course.
There's two openings that we want to talk about, the Miami Dolphins and the Minnesota Vikings. Who do you guys see filling those roles?
Well, for me, with the Minnesota Vikings, I got Kevin O'Connell. And he is currently the offensive coordinator for the LA Rams, and he's got that McVay type in him. And I love that. He's working his way up to the ranks. He started out in Washington as the quarterback coach. He was a quarterback himself. And then he comes to the Rams and does exactly what Sean McVay does. Just quietly starts building up in the ranks. And I think if you have these offensive weapons like the Vikings do, Justin Jefferson, who I believe is a top 5 receiver in the league, maybe bold, I don't think so. You have Adam Thielen, who's one of the most underrated receivers in the league, Dalvin Cook. You have all these offensive weapons. You need to give them an offensive scheme to fulfill their potential. And that's what this Viking team has been. They've always been considered going into year and every year. They're a playoff team. But Kirk Cousins, he's not a big-time quarterback. I think we all know that by now. But I think if you give them an offensive mind, something that they can work on with Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, all these key pieces, I think these guys will turn into a playoff team if you get Kevin O'Connell.
I'm just kind of sick and tired of the McVay prototype where he's this young guy coming up, he's got the offensive mind, and then he just falls flat. I'm sorry, but Minnesota has to go somewhere else. But in Miami, I'm going to be looking at Byron Leftwich. I don't know how he hasn't gotten a job already. The Buccaneers led the league in passing yards and plays of 20-plus yards or more last year. That's exactly what Miami needs because they have no idea what Tua is providing them. They got Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker, so they have some weapons. And so Leftwich is a guy that wants to build up his own team. He was in line for the Jaguars position, but somehow, of course, the Jaguars did what they always do and just fumbled that opportunity immediately. And so Leftwich being on the market, coming off of a Super Bowl win with Tom Brady and coming from the Bruce Arians tree, he's got plenty of wisdom that he can spare to Tua and all the other younger offensive weapons. This guy is a prime candidate for Miami, especially coming off of a weird, confusing firing in Brian Flores.
Yeah, Matt, you may be tired of the McVay prototype, but the league clearly is not because like half of the coaches now, it's McVay types, it's McVay people who worked under him. So I totally see that happening for the Vikings. And then I agree, I think firing Flores was very confusing, but if you have to replace him, I think Leftwich is a great choice. We'll have to wait and see what will happen. We're certainly all interested to see who they hire. In the meantime, make sure to watch Penn State Sports Night as we keep you up to date on the latest in the NFL and beyond. For Matt McLaughlin and Tim Rogers, I'm Kelly Warner. Thanks for watching.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind the scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.